Let's see.
What?
All right, guys. It is that time. Robert, I beat 10-10 by 1 minute this week.
No, my computer says 10-10.
Your computer's lying. Mine says
Mine's set at standard, whatever it is, clock, whatever they got, space clock or whatever it is. It says
well,
9,
now
10.
mine says 10-10 now. Anyway, yeah. So it is a little after the 10 o'clock hour. It is Sunday night, and this is the Alien Factory podcast here with the cast of characters and crew at Area 51. And we are glad to be here with you for another week of the Alien Factory podcast. This week, we have a great guest with us who heads up the Coca-Cola team for Lowline Racing. Garrett Mashburn is with us tonight. Garrett, thanks for being with us.
Well, let me unmute first. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, guys, it's been a bit of an eventful week this week in iRacing in a couple of fronts.
Now, wait a minute. You're not going to comment on his T-shirt? We don't even have Alienware shirts, and he's got Lowline shirts on. Come on.
Hey, we're trying to get some alien heads out there, Tracy, on some shirts. We'll get it working.
Yeah, I want an alien shirt.
We'll get it working. But yeah, interesting week this week in iRacing. And like I said, a couple of fronts in the NASCAR stuff, trucks, Xfinity, the Cup Series. Everything's at Bristol, which makes for some entertaining, interesting racing, to say the least. And also, there's been some good stuff going on the roadside that I've been a part of with you guys. One of them was one of my all-time favorite track, along with one of my favorite track car combos, was the MX-5s at Bathurst this week. Did a lot of that. That was fun. I probably did a decent amount of racing this week. All good stuff. And Brandon Burkhardt, friend of ours, was doing some of the Mazdas with me, and I ran a few of the Bristols with Scotty and Robert this week, including our league race. That was fun, I guess. And yeah, Trace, you got some cool stuff going on this week too. So let's just kind of go around, see how everybody's week's been, and Tracy, you can talk about some of your cool stuff. So we got the Admiral here tonight, guys. Tracy Rumschlag, how you doing, Admiral?
I'm doing good. Drop your beer, grab your gear. The Admiral's here. Yeah, if you tuned into the podcast last week, I think we started to talk about the deal of the century. Maybe we did, and I don't recall. All I know is
about Junior showing up.
Well, not quite. That was I was going to get to that. I was going to save that for you, Robert. But anyways, so Mike, you go, hey Trace, I got a pop-up that says, hey, you still want your VR headset from HP? You got an hour to buy it. And turns out I ended up getting that HP Reverb 2 headset, the VR headset. And
the Reverb G2, the
G2. Yeah. All right, good deal. Anyhow, I got that thing. I really like it. That was a really good deal. And for those that don't know, HP ran like a Labor Day sale on the thing, and they knocked $200 off, and right off the top. And then Mike had some credits that he gifted me, which was really nice. So it made my price, my purchase real reasonable and a no-brainer to buy. So I ended up getting a good deal on it, probably the deal of a century. So thank you. And but I love it. I think it's great. But I'm having to relearn all the software and stuff. Struggling a little bit there. I need some time with it, which I'm on vacation now, so I'll have that time. So I'm off for the next 2 weeks. So we're gonna go to a sprint car race, I think, next weekend at Sharon. Kind of close out the season on that part of the racing part. But I'm going to try to learn this headset, maybe get into some more racing. And then you were talking about some of the stuff that went on this week. I found something this week that iRacing started, which I thought was pretty cool, and I need to get into more. Is I like the V8 supercars, and they have a fixed series now. And I want to try to see if I can get into that and maybe do some more racing with that. The open sets, I don't know, seems to be a black art. We really can't, I don't know, find the information or the setups that everybody uses, the sweet spots or whatever, like we do the B car, that make them fast. But there's some really fast V8 supercar guys. And I know I got to practice with some of the pros and stuff like that. And those guys are unbelievably amazing how fast they are. They're a joy to be around, but I'm telling you what, I got a steep learning curve to get involved in that crew. So anyhow, that's what I've been doing all week.
Yeah, Trace, we had you and you used to get into the V8 supercars every once in a while, and they're those things are I like them. They're kind of fun, but and the races are decently long. C class. But the one thing I always struggle with is they had that notorious iRacing. I call it the airplane spin. When you're braking, trying to get into a corner, and those just things just go around on you pretty easy, and they get kind of loose coming out of turns too a lot of times.
Yeah, and what I noticed is they were at Bathurst this week, and I know that's one of your favorite tracks to run. So I was practicing there, but yeah, when you go into a corner and it just seems like you want to try to get on the gas, even just remotely a little bit, it just seems to want to self spin real easy, and you
Yep.
just can't control it. So yeah, and that's something I'm fighting myself. I'm not real disciplined with that car. I try to not make the throttle and off on switch, but that car is kind of hypersensitive, and I just don't have whatever it takes to really make that thing go good.
Yeah, and I just don't think that's one of the things about iRacing I think is not realistic, like not a simulation. And that is the idea when you're braking into a turn, your car just starts doing an airplane spin out of nowhere. Like I just don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, I wish they'd fix that for sure, because a lot of the cars that they have in iRacing, um, you never see them drive like that in real life. Now, granted, I know you can't drive everything full throttle like a dragster, but some of these things on cold tires are completely brutal. And then it's almost like you're on ice all the time in iRacing. So anyhow, until they fix that, it's just is what it is.
Well, and I'm not talking about the getting into the throttle coming out of the turn. I'm talking about entry, like when you're braking, entering the turn.
Right,
And some of these road course stuff,
right,
you do that flat spin.
right.
Yeah, the exit I understand. A lot of these things have a lot of high horsepower, and I understand that on exit, if you give it too much gas, it might go around on you.
I had a little fun at the GT4, the fixed glass GT4 at Okayama. That's a good track. I enjoy running around there. I do okay there, but still there's some guys that really know how to get around the place.
Yeah, I like Okayama, but yeah, but not only do I like Bathurst, Tracy, it is my all-time favorite road course. I love it, man.
Yeah,
All-time favorite.
it separates the men from the boys, that's for sure.
Yep. So that's good, man. So yeah, I might check out some of those fixed C-class Super V8 or those V8 supercars with you. We got to tell you what, with somebody we haven't seen in a while here in Area 51, been on a hiatus, is the gerbil. I mean, if we call Robert the man, the myth, the legend, but gerbil, you become a myth, like hiding in the shadows. Where you been, man? What have you been up to?
Work. Work's kept me away from racing. Of course, I bought a farm pretty much, and so I've been having to do it. Now it's winter, it's fixing to be winter time, so I'll be a little more racing now.
All right, you guys will see David Gervais, the gerbil, back then in a race near you.
And we're glad he'll be sporting Area 51 colors again too. We're glad to have him back.
Yeah, David Gervais. I got him all hooked up with all of his Area 51 cars and logos, so he's good to go now, right, gerbil?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Then we got. I'm going to ask Robert. Robert, how has your week been? How many Bristol races you run, and how brutal has it been this week?
I think I ran 3 or 4. The worst one I was in is one that you were in. And
oh yeah, that noon rate, the nooner the other day.
yeah,
That was horrible.
I know, and especially when I was on the outside, you were on the inside. We were going lap after lap. You'd think a teammate would let you drop in a little
There
bit,
you
where you
go.
won't have to face all that stuff behind him. But not Mikey. If you don't, people don't understand. Mikey's not like some teammates. Mikey
Oh.
Mikey doesn't know you're there, and he'll just race you. And if he has to just kind of push you out of the way or just ruin your line, Mikey's there
That's
for
not
you.
true.
Now, Scotty, we were having difficulties with him.
Yeah, I have to agree with Robert on that one. I mean, at Kansas, he drove me 10 laps side by side, and surely he knew I was there. I was on the low line, so I'm sure he seen me.
Oh, the only thing that came in our benefit in Kansas, Mikey got ahead of us. We finally had to let him go. Just go ahead and go. You're just slowing us down. And then a few laps later, Mikey got involved with a wreck. And then Mikey had to get his car fixed. And Scotty ended up finishing 6th. I finished in 9th. And Mikey, I think he finished back in 19th where he belonged.
Man, you guys are kind of
Whoa.
salty this week, aren't you?
He's cold-hearted to you, ain't he?
Yeah, no, dang on, dude.
What are teammates for, right, Mikey?
I guess. Jeez.
Other than that, it went pretty good.
How many X's did you get in that noon race the other day?
Oh, I got 20.
Wow.
Yeah, I would have finished 6th, but I got tapped before the start finish line and it put me at the end of it. Let me 2 laps
Wow.
down. Yeah, I appreciate it, Mikey. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anytime, Robert. Well,
Okay.
now that we've heard everything we want to hear from the number 1 team driver, I'm going to move on to Scooter. Scotty, how was your? You had an eventful league race this week. That didn't turn out too great. How was the rest of your racing this week?
Well, I only had one decent race, and I managed to finish and collect points on it. But my first race at Bristol, I didn't even get the first lap in. Tyler Latero just doored me for whatever reason on the backstretch and sent me out. It just ruined my race. I mean, I had to get fixed. It was like I was 28 laps down when I got back on the track, lost 114 I rating. Very upset about that. The dude had no reason to hit me on a straightaway, and you can watch it. Robert's seen it. He just turned down and hit me. But anyway, and then Mike Howerton decides to
Here we go again.
pin Robert Cook up
up?
high, and Robert Cook gets into the back of a car that hits the wall. And next thing you know, that car comes down the track, and they both hit me in the door and send me down the track. And that was 9 minutes of repairs. But I finished 12 laps down in that race, I think.
Yeah, Mikey let me in. I would never hit that car. I would
And-
never been involved with that wreck.
It's just Bristol, baby.
Now I'm just scared to drive it. I mean, there ain't no I rating in the races, and you know, I could probably win a few if I just get out there and run it, but too many idiots out there.
I suppose, man.
And
Garrett's-
some of them are teammates, though, Scotty.
Here you guys go.
He's not an idiot. He don't pay attention. He's
Yeah.
got one
It's a tough
focus. Let's
room
get into
tonight,
the front.
guys. Tough room. So Garrison's standing there patiently waiting. I've been watching him on the camera there. Garrett, what's your week been like? You guys dabbled in Bristol any this week?
I've had my nose buried in math homework, so with schoolwork. So I haven't. I got in a practice lobby for C Fixed last night just because I was like, okay, I don't want to end the day with my brain hurting. I just want to turn mindless laps at Bristol, and you can really turn mindless laps at Bristol as long as you don't mind hitting the wall and tearing it down and killing everyone. So I did that for 20-30 minutes before bed last night, but otherwise I haven't really been around at all this week. I figured this would be a week to take a week off.
Yeah, you better watch out those college classes. They'll interfere with your iRacing.
and your I
Yeah.
rating.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't have that. I like that number.
Exactly.
There you go. How's everybody been doing over at Lowline this week at Bristol? You guys picked up any wins this week?
I don't think anyone's really been doing too much racing this week. Usually Daytona, Talladega, and like Bristol and Martinsville weeks are the weeks that, either everyone's on every night, we're all junking it up together, or it's a ghost town all week. And this with Bristol, it seems to kind of be a ghost town.
Yeah, but those are good weeks
I know
to
a
get
couple
safety
guys have done
rating.
NIS.
You could farm safety rating all week there.
I'm at 4.99. What I need safety rating for?
with the padding on top, right?
Yeah, I got plenty to spare if I'm gonna race. I'm just safety rating. Who cares about that? We're going high
What's
rating.
that?
I'm just here for the safety rating anyways.
Well,
I
you
love
just
to
don't
hear
have a
that.
teammate
Dude,
like
that's how
Mikey.
when somebody says at the beginning of the race, I just face palm and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is gonna
Like,
be
well,
great.
there's cautions 1, 3, 4, probably 7.
Yeah, really. Just here for the safety, fellas. Just don't mind
Sure
me.
you
I'll
are.
let you by.
Sure you will.
Yeah, sure you will. After the turn. That's what I love
Yeah.
it. This is but I love it at Darlington when guys say, we're just here for the safety and it's Darlington. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
It's like
And then, and then they're
you picked
slow
the
as
worst
can-
place.
Yeah, and then they're slow as can be, and you hit them going, you catch up to them going 30-mile-an-hour faster than them at the entry of turn. They're like, just hold on, I'll let you by on the back stretch. And I'm like, great. After you just cost me 3 or 4 seconds, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me by.
Yeah.
Oh, guys.
There's
That's
not a
I think
mile
that
of asphalt down here to our left. You couldn't have pulled off before we get to the corner. But hey,
No,
you
they
know,
pull
you do
off.
you.
That's neither
They
here nor
pull
there,
off,
guys.
but they're
That's
going
neither
too
here nor
fast
there.
and they pull right back up. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nuno did that twice to me at Darlington. It pulled right up in front of me right before we went into turn 3. Anyway. Wow. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna we're already a little bit in. This is just a good intro here this week. Find out what everybody was doing. But I tell you what, we got a great guest this week doing some cool stuff. And this is the first time that we have had a guest, I would say, at the caliber that Garrett is at, you know, like the level that he's at, and kind of the stuff he's doing, getting to see inside of what they do a bit. And I'm not even going to tell you what it is that he does yet. I'm going to let Tracy and Garrett get into that. So I'm going to turn things over to my trusted co-host here, the Admiral Tracy Rumschlad, as we get into the face that runs the place tonight. Trace, go ahead.
All right, my favorite segment, the face that runs the place, and it's legit this week. We probably got one of the best guys out there, and I'm going to thank him from the bottom of my heart, man. I have not got to talk to you in a few years, and when we were together the last time, we had a lot of fun, and I think we're still going to have a lot of fun. And we're going to dig back a little bit, start out kind of where we were at a few years ago, and then we're going to build through the entire show to what you do now, and which I think is very exciting, especially for the future of racing and iRacing. But anyways, it is my pleasure to introduce Garrett Mashburn. And Garrett runs Lowline Racing with the Coca-Cola teams. He manages all of that with those drivers. We're not going to get into that right now. We're going to save that for the second half of the show. We want to spoil everything. But what I do want to get back into is, Garrett, we want to get in to how you got started, boss. We want to know, you don't have to go back to your childhood, but how did you get into racing? How did you get into sim racing? We'll get into how you and I met, what we used to do back then. And everything kind of leads to where you're at now. And that's the path I want to follow tonight. What is it you want people to know? Tell people what you want people to know about you. How did you get started, you know, on this path of where you ended up?
Well, so I've grown up here in Northeast Oklahoma. My life, I'm almost 28, so I've lived here, 27 and however many quarter years now. And growing up, my older cousins and uncles, they all raced the factory stock dirt class cars at Tulsa Speedway and Creek County Speedway out in Kellyville. So, Saturday nights, me and all my family, we were all always at the short tracks watching the races. So I was kind of, bit from the start. I never had a chance of not being into racing. But about the time that I was old enough to really want to start doing it myself and, working on cars with them, maybe get to drive one myself, that was about 2009, 2010. That was about the point where it started, the price of racing's always been really expensive, but right at that time, right around here, it started just going like straight up. So that's about the time that they got out of it. So I never really had the chance to do that kind of racing, real life racing myself, unless you count rental go-karts. But
Now you were involved though, right? You worked on them and stuff like that. Did you build them?
no, because I was too young. Whenever they were still in it, I was just too young to be able to really do it with them. I was around it, but I wasn't, with them until, midnight, 1 a.m., 3, 4, 5 nights a week, trying to get the car ready for the next Saturday night. I was never, in that, but
So
I
you
was
were not, you weren't
definitely
on the road or anything like that?
No. They never went out on the road. They just did like weekly series here for like 10 years at Creek County Speedway.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I never really got to do any of the mechanical work or driving myself. Like I said, they got out of it just about the time I was old enough to, have a real interest in starting to do it myself.
Okay. So where did it go from there? How did you go from real racing to like getting into sim racing? Did you get into Papyrus and all that?
Oh yeah, so it was probably about 2008, 2009 is whenever I first really got into sim racing. Um, I mean, I had played growing up. I played all the EA NASCAR games on like the PS1, the Nintendo 64, all that stuff, and NASCAR Racing 2 on the PC. I don't know if y'all remember that game with the
Yeah,
you know with the
I think I
box
played that.
cars.
Yeah, I think I played some of that
Yeah,
game.
yeah, it was
And I'm
like
gonna
the
tell you
first game they advertised as like full 3D.
yeah, and the N64 games, now that was realistic right there. I
Yeah.
remember playing some of them.
Oh
Yeah, but
yeah.
they had as the first ones that had the analog stick. So you had a little bit better control of the car. But let me tell you, those things
Yeah.
were real simulators. I mean, my goodness.
Oh
They were
yeah.
pretty wild. That was sarcasm there, people, if you didn't realize. They weren't that realistic at all.
Yeah, I can still hear Benny Parsons, just randomly interjecting things as you're just going around the lap in last place, hitting the wall, and Benny Parsons is just like, man, oh man, he's doing so good, or whatever it was he said. Just like, no, I'm not.
Now that was
Yeah,
on X.
yeah,
game
so
companies had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Now was that Xbox or what was that?
So it had been Nintendo 64 at first, then PS1, and then finally PlayStation 2, NASCAR, EA Sports NASCAR games, and then
They
it
started
was
to get a little
about
bit better on the
2008.
PS2, I think. Didn't they, Garrett?
Yeah,
on the PS2, they
yeah.
started to
There's
get a little
about
bit better quality.
there's about 2 or 3 years where at least the game. It's not a simulator, but the gameplay wise, as far as career mode and stuff like that, it was pretty fun. It was pretty good. Then about 2008, 2009, somewhere in there is when I first discovered NASCAR 2003. The first drug for just about all of us.
Yes.
As far as
Absolutely.
getting into iRacing.
Right.
And I didn't even have like an Xbox controller that I could plug into my computer. Didn't have a joystick or racing wheel or anything. I played NASCAR 2003 on a keyboard for probably 2 or 3 years before I ever got like a cheap little USB Xbox controller to plug into my computer. And man, let me tell you about trying to drive smoothly on a keyboard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I bet
Can't.
you were fun to be around.
I
can see that
was
car jerking through the corner.
always an
Jerk,
adventure.
jerk, jerk, jerk.
Yeah.
Hey, and you guys
It
thought
was
I
always
wrecked
an
people a lot
adventure.
when I first started.
But his
Well,
is
hey,
because of
I
equipment.
will put.
I was gonna say his is
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
equipment.
that's true.
His was
The
equipment.
talent
Mikey.
was there, the equipment wasn't. No.
All right. So when did you get on iRacing?
iRacing, it was April 2015. It was 2 days after I got a Logitech G27.
Okay. All right. 15. I couldn't remember the time. Because I know, what was it?
Yeah.
By 2016, you and I were on the same team together, right?
Yeah, it was about 2 years after that. It was either at the end of 2016 or the beginning of 2017. It was somewhere right in there.
Okay. All right. And I don't remember the storyline, so you're going to have to help pick it up. Now, I know I was picked up by Overclock Motorsports by Chris Roberts. We were in a practice session one time and he offered some help and wanted to know if I wanted to be on his team so he could help me. And he knew I was into setups because he wanted to try a setup of mine. And he said it was pretty quick at the time and it was just my driving that was killing me. But he has this team. Didn't know it at the time, but it ended up to be a pro team. And I came on and then I know he recruited a bunch of people and I know you were part of that group. So how did Chris get a hold of you or you guys find each other or you come over to Overclock Motorsports?
So I was at the time it was when I was first starting into building setups, and at the time I had a lot of free time at night. I was working nights, so I would sleep during the day while my wife was at work. And on the nights I didn't work, she was in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock. Well, it's like, well, I can't really go to sleep. I'll screw up my sleep schedule, so I just stay up and race all night. Well, at the time, Chris was up racing all night too, and he would regularly just walk me just up and down, left, right, sideways, backwards, every which direction, because I was fast. I just, same thing as you. It's just my driving was killing me. I didn't know what the heck I was in. So I was running fixed races all the time, trying to dabble setups, and kind of the same thing. He was like, "Well, if you're wanting to get into setups, if you don't know what you're doing, why don't you come race with us? We kind of know what we're doing." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah,
So
and
that's
I
how.
remember that that's where we met, and I had the privilege to work with you on that kind of stuff. So we kind of learned as we went. But the biggest thing with Chris, and this is something that we stress every week on the podcast, because a lot of times we deal with setup shops now, okay? And I don't know if you guys use or you're involved with setups. I know you got your own setup guys and stuff for your team, obviously, but we didn't have that back then, so we kind of had to learn what was going on. But I remember that we were always in like 4-hour practice sessions. Chris would put up a 4-hour room, mostly fixed. So we didn't get in there dabbling with dabbling with the setups and stuff like that. And we would work on our driving. Remember that? We would have like, I don't know if it's like
Yeah.
we would document like 35 laps, and then we would go 45 laps and fuel runs and stuff like that, and see how everybody lined up at that point in time, who was fast and who wasn't. And that was a great way to learn. But that was a steep learning curve. And back then I was on a G27, and I mean, that was good enough. That was good for me at the time, but still not as advanced as the stuff we have nowadays. I can have bad habits on any type of equipment and do so. But that that was a lot of time we spent every single weekend, every track. He loved the cookie cutters, which was Charlotte and Kansas, and anything that
Charlotte,
was.
Atlanta, Old Texas,
Yes. Yep.
anything a mile and a half, Vegas.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love mile and a half tracks. Those I love them.
So we had a lot of people that came in and out. We're trying to get one of the guys that we had from back then on the podcast, Stephen Harry. We've reached out to him. His schedule's a little complicated right now, so we still have an invite for him to come on, share some of those old stories. Everybody loves Stephen. He's a great guy to have. He would come in and race and practice, but from there, we got into the pro stuff, and this is kind of where you excelled, because Corey Vincent, who's still in the Coca-Cola series, was Chris's driver at the time. And when it came to the Coca-Cola stuff, Chris was very serious. It was very structured, very strict, and Chris had zero tolerance. If you couldn't do what was asked of you, he had no use for you. And that's how he had a big turnover in his team, that he got tired of certain people. Then that's what happened. He would gain new people and just keep the feeder system alive, because his main focus was Corey Vincent at the time. So I believe, without telling too much now, we'll save this for the second half of the show, but I think a lot of those qualities I know you brought to the team, and a lot of stuff you may have learned from the team, because there was a nice system where and I don't remember the guy's name. I think you and I talked about this in pre-production, but there was one guy that was the spotter, and I don't remember his name, but he actually had a sound studio in Nashville. Was it Nashville? I think he had it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this guy,
Yeah. His first name's Drew. That's all I can remember. I can't remember his last name for the life of me. But yeah, I guess from what I remember, if I'm remembering correctly, he lives in Nashville and he does a lot of like radio, like commercial radios, like commercials for radio. And yeah, he just had the voice of a god.
yeah, he was the
And he
voiceover guy,
was
if
the
I remember right.
spotter.
Yeah, so he was
Yeah.
the spot.
Yeah, and he was Corey's spotter for a long time.
Right. He was Corey's dedicated spotter. But the thing you have to understand, not you personally, but the viewers, is at this level, you can't have a lot of distractions. So the spotter was the only one that was allowed in, and it wasn't Discord at the time. It was TeamSpeak, if I remember
TeamSpeak.
right. Yeah. So he
Yeah.
had it set up where only the spotter could talk to the driver. The crew chief talked to the spotter, which I think you were involved in behind the scenes somewhat there for a while. And then you had
Yeah.
everybody else that just wanted to be a part of the team at the time. Stat guys doing fuel, keeping eye on, spotters, keeping eye on everything. But I do remember that time period. I don't remember how much time was involved. We were doing it a couple years, I'm sure. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years, but that was a good time there before Chris decided to make some changes. I believe you and I were part of those changes at the time, for whatever reason. And but you know, those were good times. We spent a lot of time just practicing and just, you know, just hanging out. That's what I remember. And then Chris got into driver development, like what Mike and I are doing now over here. So we would have Sunday sessions up, and you know, and that was long before setup shops. I think VRS may have been in its infancy at the time. But I know, you know, he did that part of it. Like I said, I know you were involved in a lot of the pro stuff because you were there every week. I think I was working at the time. I wasn't able to see it, but yeah, good times. But I'll share a story, and you should remember this guy too, Jeffrey Redmond. He's from Texas, and this guy here was a complete. I mean, he was just hysterical. It was funny. Every time we would go into these practice sessions, you knew when lap 10 was, because Jeffrey had always either hit the wall or had wrecked it or spun out or something. He just ran out of talent at lap 10. And to this day, I still think of that guy. He was so much fun. And I want to share one more story, Garrett. I don't know if you remember this or not, but we were in a practice session, and I think it may have been trucks. But anyways, Chris always set fixed rooms up. So you drove the fixed setup. But he one time forgot and made it an open room thinking it was fixed. And Jeffrey found out about it, and he started making changes to the truck. He taped it up and all kinds of stuff. Didn't tell anybody, and he went right to the top of the speed chart. Well, Jeffrey was never at the top of the speed chart. So Chris is like going, Jeffrey, what are you doing? He goes, what did you do? And he goes, I'm not doing nothing. He goes, I just went out, you know, did a practice or did a hot lap, you know, and it just went to the top. So Jeffrey does it again, and he goes up to the top of the chart again. Chris is going, something's wrong here. Turns out Jeffrey's telling everybody else but Chris that it's an open room. Daniel Wilborn was in there at the time, and I'm hoping you were, but I don't recall. And so we had this whole group of people in there that was on open sets, but we never told Chris. So Chris is getting ticked off trying to figure out why everybody is just beating his brains in, because usually that wasn't the case. Chris was always the fastest, right? So Jeffrey is just laughing. We're all laughing, having a good time, because we added tape and just made changes and stuff like that to make it faster. Chris is the slowest guy, and he is going crazy at this point in time. He's to the point where he almost rage quit, right? So then Jeffrey goes, by the way, did you know that you set up an open room? And Chris goes, no, I didn't, you know, because he was all proud and stuff. He just didn't make mistakes like that. And he checked, and he found out he did. And that's why everybody was beating him. He was so mad he quit after that. But I remember that because we were laughing so hard because of that. But that's the things that happened over at Overclock. We were serious when we had to be. And then when we were having fun, we were having fun. We took it off the chart. And that's some of the good times that I remember. And I do miss them, but we've had some great times here with Mike and building this channel and getting guys like you in here that have done good things in iRacing since then. You know, you've built your own little empire over there at Lowline. And really that's what we're here for, is you. So I'm going to shut up and let you tell your side of the story.
Yeah, so the overclock stuff, I can't remember if it was the end of 2016 or beginning of 2017 that I came over there. Either way, I was there for, I think it was the entire 2017 season, Coke season, well, you know, peak season at the time. And then you and I got the boot just about the same time towards the end of 2017.
Right.
If I recall correctly.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, during that season, that was my first involvement in eNASCAR, and yeah, definitely a lot of stuff that I learned there, that Chris did with Overclock, I still do over at Lowline. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that even at the time I was like, why are we doing this way instead of doing it, that way kind of thing? Why are we doing A when B might be a little bit better? But, it was Chris ran the show there. So if he didn't want to do B, if B wasn't his idea in the first place, it didn't happen at all. One thing that he did end up budging on was me talking to Drew during the race. He'd be spotting for Corey. And, you don't need a million voices. You don't need a million people talking whenever the race is going on under green flag. There just needs to be one guy talking to the spotter. Driver can talk back to the spotter, and we can listen. But since Drew was having to watch Corey, and what was going on around Corey, there'd be times where we'd be running in the back, kind of having a crap Tuesday night, be running about 25th place, whatever it was, and something would happen like a corner away, the end of the corner that Corey's going into. And so I was like, okay, there's one event specifically that made me start doing this. It was a wreck happened up in front of Corey, and he couldn't see it. Drew wasn't able to call it because, however, Drew had his camera, he couldn't see it. But, me sitting there on Corey's car, you hit Control F12 in the sim, you can move the camera around as far out as you want, look whatever direction you want. So I watched this wreck happen. Drew and Corey both reacted to it like at the same time, and Corey got in it. And I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. There was no reason for him to be in that wreck. So I got with Drew, I think it was after that race or some point over the next 2 weeks, and told him, I was like, hey, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set you up on a whisper in TeamSpeak so only you can hear me talking. I'm going to feed you information, and you decide if Corey needs to know this or not. I'll tell you, okay, this car 2-3 seconds in front of us is pitting. This car behind us just pit. Whatever the hell a wreck is. If the track's blocked. Whatever. I'll feed you information. And
now at this time, Chris didn't even know that, right? You and Drew were the only two that knew that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if I remember the story,
for a
there
little
was something like that. Right, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I told Drew, I was like, hey, told him, I was like, I think we need to do this. And he agreed. He's like, that's a great idea. And I was like, okay, if I'm feeding you too much information, if you think something's irrelevant, we set up a whisper button in TeamSpeak for me and him to be able to just talk to each other. I was like, if I'm feeding you too much information, or as we go through this process, I'm feeding you crap you don't need to know, just tell me, hey, shut up. So we started doing that, and it was working. It was working for a little bit. I'd tell him whatever I kind of saw there on the racetrack, and then after a while, I was like, okay, maybe we need to loop Key in on this. Commander Little, who was crew chief, wasn't he crew chief?
Yeah, he had something to do with it because he used to do the pit stop settings. Remember? Because there was a problem there.
Okay.
There was a problem there where he wasn't getting the adjustment set correctly, and I remember Corey coming in one time for fuel and left and never got fuel. Or one time he came in and didn't get the tires changed, So yeah, Key was kind of kind of the downfall of that situation. But unfortunately, he was Corey's buddy, so he couldn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff is what it is. But then I was like, okay, maybe we should. I think this is where I made the mistake of me and Drew being like, hey, we should loop Key and Chris on this, because then I think it was like within a month after that you and I both got the boot.
Yeah, and I know there was something said at that point in time. It was like that you guys were doing this and didn't include anybody, but in reality, that's what was needed anyways, because those were the two guys that were creating the problem in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, Chris is a smart guy. He, for whatever I others think about him, at the end of the day, he does know a thing or two, and he teach me a lot. Being there definitely taught me a lot. But yeah, there's just not a lot. Like I said earlier, there's just, if it was the mentality of, if it wasn't my idea, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And I was just like, we could do things better, even if it's not your idea, but
right.
So
now we segue just a little bit ahead. We're out of overclock. And now, did you go right into Lowline at that, or where did you go from overclock? Did you just race yourself for a while? Were you in leagues? What did you do after that?
So after that, I mainly just did A Open by myself, just solo, all by my lonesome. At that point, I knew at least enough that if, the bigger name guys who really knew what they were doing at the time, if they didn't show up for, an afternoon A Open or an evening, if they didn't show up for A Open, then I was at least good enough at the time that I was probably going to win. But
Okay.
if,
Yeah, because A
any
back then was kind of dead, wasn't it? If I remember right, A really wasn't that popular because nobody knew the
yeah,
setups. Go ahead.
yeah, because, the Gen 6 at the time, it was still, it was before iRacing had the high downforce, you know, 20-foot wall on the back of the car. It was still just like the small blade, get the rear end as low as you can, kind of meta setup there. And so yeah, A Open didn't really have a ton of competition on the weeks that the Peak Series was there. No, it definitely ramped up because all those guys, they do the A Open stacks Mondays and Tuesdays to, get a mock race in for the Tuesday night race. So those races were always interesting. Got my butt handed to me every time.
Right. And this
But
was the time, this was right at the time period before the guys found out there were exploits with the tires and the camber thrust and all that other stuff, which applied to the A car, the B car, which is what I was doing in the truck at the time. I know once, the guys in the Coke series, Peak series at the time found out about that stuff. That's when everything blew up. And I think Tyler Hudson was a big part of that at the time. I think that's how he got his job at iRacing, or part of it anyways. But what I'm curious with, and now if I'm jumping too far ahead, you're going to have to fill in the gaps for me. But at some point of time, you met Dallas Pataska, okay? And I'm not sure where Christian Challoner fits in. And I think it's Major's Garage. Am I right about that? Somewhere that all ties in, because I know you were part of that, because you guys were, you and Dallas had came over and you wanted me to work with him a little bit, and fill in that for me now.
So yeah, it was one night. It was a Open week at Charlotte. I think it was the 600 week in 2018. So A Open was at Charlotte, and I absolutely walked Dallas by. He finished second, like half a lap down. Just completely blew the doors off of him, and I had raced him, in FIG quite a bit, so I knew he was good. And I was like, oh, okay, I got, my setup must not be half bad. And then he messaged me and was like, hey, you want to be friends? I was like, okay, sure. I don't, because after Overclock, I don't really have any real life friends that are super big into NASCAR and iRacing like I am. So I didn't really have any sim racing buddies to hang out with and do stuff with. And it's like, okay, I've raced Dallas enough to know that, A, he's fast, and then B, he knows how to drive, so he's not gonna steal my setup and never talk to me again.
Right.
He's a real nice guy. So me and him started doing stuff. We started building on Cup stuff together, and then shortly after that, we started running with. It was Brad Bothwell, Rob Gianni, and a couple other guys I can't remember now.
I remember Brothwell. I see him
I think,
from time to time.
Yeah, he's Brad, funny guy. So we ran with them. I think we called ourselves No Fear Racing or whatever the heck Brad called it. It was his team. And then that's about the time Dallas and I, or this was like, hey, I kind of want to do the whatever it was called before we called it Road to Pro. He's like, I want to make a run at Coke. Because at the time it was just like those 6, 7, 8 races, whatever it was in the fall, that was open to anyone. It was just like the wild, wild west of getting into peak. And so we started doing that, and that's about the time I got back in touch with you, and that, me and Dallas were doing it, and you were contributing where you could.
Right.
And then at some point through that is when me and Dallas got in touch with crap. I'm blanking on his name now.
Is it Christian Challoner?
No, Challoner was later down the road.
Okay.
Nick Morse, that's who it was. With the Start and Park Express team. So we did, yeah. So we did that season with them. We were on specs for a little bit throughout 2018, and then somehow me, Nick, and Dallas, we all ended up at Lowline. I can't remember the details there, but we left specs, and all three of us went to Lowline.
Now, was
And then
Lowline a
from
thing at the
there,
time? Were they a big team at the time?
well, I don't know if you'd say big, but Lowline's been around since it was like late 2011, early 2012. They started as like a B car team on iRacing.
Okay.
It was like 3 or 4 or 5 guys at the time, and so
Now, are they still
somehow
are they still
like,
on the team? Are those guys on the team still?
one guy comes around every now and then. He's been last couple of years. He's been pretty busy with real life stuff. But otherwise, no, none of them really come around or do anything. As far as again, I really only names of I think 2 of them. One of them I know doesn't do iRace at all anymore, and the other one, like I said, he pops up every now and then. But you know, eventually, real life gets in the way of your hobbies, and sometimes you got to drop a hobby, and he had to drop this hobby. So
Right.
yeah, so us 3 ended up over there. That's about the time Morse decided he was retiring the first time, I think. So he left Lowline. I don't know. I don't know what he did after that. Either way, he left, and then
Now,
this
Dallas
is
is
where
still with
Challenger
you.
comes in.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Is Dallas
At
is
this
still
point,
with
it's
you
me
though,
and
right?
Dallas on Lowline.
Okay.
Yeah. At this point, early 2019, it's me and Dallas on Lowline, and then this is where Challenger comes in.
And how
Challenger
did you meet
Samuel
him?
Roush
How did you meet Christian?
through Dallas.
How did he meet him? Do
Through
you know?
Dallas.
Okay. How did
I have
Dallas
no
meet
idea.
him? Okay, because I used to race with Christian.
No idea.
Christian got on the same time I did in 2014, and we actually ran a league together. That's why I know Christian. But then he went off to do
Okay.
great things too, being a pro. And that, I'll tell you what, you know, I'm gonna tip your hand a little bit. I know you're a mechanical engineer, but I'm gonna tell you what, Christian was going through engineering school at the time back then, and I'm telling you what, for a young kid, he was smart. I mean, he's more smart now, but back then he was sharp. And what I like about
Yeah.
Christian is he can tell you stuff and teach you stuff, and you just gravitate towards what he's saying. You know what I mean? He's just, you know, when he says it, he means it, and it's legit. He backs it up. That's
Yeah.
what I like about Christian. So anyhow, sorry
Yeah.
to hog that, but go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. Anytime I've ever asked, like anytime I've ever gone to Christian with a question, can like explain it to a 5-year-old. So it's like that's perfect. I understand it now. But so that I think it was through the super late model stuff. I can't remember what league it was that him and Dallas both. I think that's where he met him. But so Dallas went over to Dynamic. I think they were called Dynamic Autosport, is what they called themselves. That
Right.
Challenger ran.
Right.
And so Dallas went over there with them because they did a lot of the super late model series, which at the time was just the open series. They didn't have the fixed, so that's why Dallas went over there. Because when he wasn't doing eNASCAR, all he did was super late models all day, every day. So he went over there with them and tried to get me to go with him, and I was just like, man, this would be like the 3rd team in like 6 months that I've been on. I'm tired of, I don't want to build a reputation as a team hopper. On top of that, I really kind of like these guys over here at Lowline. I think I'll just kind of stay here. So that's kind of where me and Dallas's road kind of parted, and he's had success on the road side doing the major stuff with what he's doing now. I know he's tried to do the Road Pro ladder a couple times since then. Yeah, I don't. Unfortunately, just kind of as life goes, you just kind of drift apart from friends. So I haven't talked. I think I talked to him 3 or 4 months ago briefly, but other than that, I haven't been really able to keep up with him.
Okay, so now you're seated in
I got
Lowline.
sidetracked.
Yeah, no worries. So now you're seated in Lowline, and you're getting ready to do what it is you do there. So let's take a break right now. It's the top of the hour, and then we'll have Mike get into his Robert's favorite part of the show right now, which is the wall of shame. So I would think we'll come up for some air right now. We'll continue this here in a little bit. So Mike, if you want to do the wall of shame, let's have at it.
Yeah, I suppose we can do that. Robert, what do you say?
It's time for the wall of shame.
All right. There you have it. Gerbil, you're not going to appear on the wall of shame this week, are you? Your name going to be up here?
No, sir.
No, sir. Gerbil's keeping it clean at Bristol.
Yeah, you
man.
got to race it to be on it. So,
There you go.
You even ran a
I'm
Bristol
fixing to race. I'm
Gerbil?
fixing to put 2 races in tonight, so we'll see.
All right, let me get the screen all shared up here with you guys. Share screen. There we go. I got it ready to go.
The Lowline guys are on it. I'm gonna bully them relentlessly.
Oh, they probably didn't race it.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, I'm logged into the wrong account. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Everybody see my
Oh, I
email
wanted to
address.
see your password.
It's blanked out anyway, but
I'm gonna sign you up for spam emails now.
yeah, really. I don't use that account anymore anyway. I'd never know if you sent that account an email ever. All right, here we go.
I mean, wall of shame. Have I ever been on the wall of shame?
I don't think so. Again, Gerbs, you got to race to be on the wall of shame. You've been gone for a while.
Actually, I've been in quite a bit, but no one's been on, so I haven't been racing.
After going back and watching a couple of these episodes the last few weeks, I think everybody should aim to be on the wall of shame at least once. It seems like it's good character building.
Well, one
I
guy
think so,
particularly
too.
asked for it because we didn't do A, and he was on top of the A, and he wanted to know how come we don't do the A.
Yeah, I think everybody should too. You know, and it's nice to be able to explain yourself. You know, I've been in the hot seat a few times myself, Garrett.
All last year, wasn't
Something like that.
How old are you, Mike?
it?
43,
So 43 years in the hot seat. Okay.
I guess. As long as I've been around these guys, they put me there whether I deserve it or not, I think. All right, let's check in though first with the good side of the deal, and that is check in on our update on our
500
championship.
points exactly.
Yeah, our championship points leader, Cody Trelendi, takes us back up to 500-point lead over Brandon Schmidt. There is our B Open championship point leader, Cody Trelendi, there with Ryko. Ryko is scooping up all the guys here in the top 25. Is Cody's nemesis, as Cody told us, his biggest nemesis was Brandon Schmidt out there on the track. And now Brandon is running for Ryko now too. So I'll tell you what, guys, if you can't put any more guys on the top 25, just start recruiting the guys that are already there, right?
That will work.
That's one way to do it.
Look at Ricky Hughes on there. Ricky Hughes is 15.
Yeah, John Jenkins came on the podcast here a while back, friend of the channel. He is currently running in 4th place. Mike Bruno, I think, is the only guy in the top 5 that's not a team driver for one of the setup shops. Mike Bruno is a rock here in B Open, has been for years. 54.95 is his championship points right now in B Open. And then Johnny Baldridge, 6th place. Tommy Goss is 7th. Anthony Federico is in 8th. Eric Schaefer 9th. Ronnie Joyner running for pay to win is in 10th positions, 46-31. As we go down through the rest of the top 25 here, a couple of standouts is Brad Mahar. And the reason he's a standout is he's running 11th place right now with 44.62 championship points, fellas. But he has only raced 20 out of 31 races this season. Amazing. He's missed 11 races and he is 11th place in overall championship points. That right there takes some skill.
Well, that or he's farming him out.
He's just fast, man. When he's in there, he dominates when the races he's in. And see, Randall Nichols, Tyler Groff, who runs for Elite. Tyler Justice of Phase 2, teammate of Mike Bruno, non-setup shop driver, driving for the Phase 2 team. He's in 14th. And our buddy Ricky Udding, Ricky U, who was here on the podcast last week talking about his models that he makes and all kind of cool stuff. Our buddy Ricky U, he is 15th overall in championship points. See Steven Aguiar, again, another guy from phase 2. Phase 2 has a lot of guys in the top 25. Steven Aguiar is in 17th. Ron Walsh, Fast Lane Racing, friend of the channel, and we like to thank Ron for those extra cam wrangles he sent us there. That's helped out the broadcast. Appreciate that. Ron is in 20th. Another thing about Ron Walsh, he just hit 6,000 rating for the first time this week. So want to throw a shout out and a congratulations from us here at Area 51 over to Ron Walsh for hitting 6,000 for the first time. That was a good accomplishment by him. Kyle Myers from Legacies in 22nd overall. And Matt Coker down there in 25th, along with Jonathan Dalrymple, who's in 24th. A lot of those guys are names that we hear every week in the Strength of Field broadcast. So, guys, that is your current championship point standings overall this season. And let's skip now this week to Bristol specifically, Robert, where it's been a bit of a struggle for a lot of people this week in Bristol. Here in week 31 of the B Open Series, the Xfinity Open Series here in iRacing. And we see some names up here on the board. Cody Trelindi walked out this week with 238 championship points. And even though I'm not sure, guys, I can't remember. Cody didn't win the Monday night race, did he? I don't think so.
I think that was John Jenkins.
Yeah, I think it was too, or I'm not sure. I have to go back. I don't think he did. So there must have been another high strength of field race other than the Monday night race. Cody walked away this week with 238 championship points. So congratulations to Cody leaving this week with the highest number of championship points. I said must have been a higher strength of field race than Monday night 8 o'clock this week. Then Kyle Brummett on the board this week, 6th place. He's running for Ryko. Kyle, you don't see him too much in B Open. He likes the short track stuff and the smaller tracks and everything. But Bristol's one of his favorite tracks. He's on the Ryko short track team. He came out for that one as well on the board. A lot of stuff happening. But I would say this is one of our. We've been seeing strength of field races with over 300 and some championship points coming out of them. So only 238. That's a bit low for our championship points leader for the week. Cody, not only is he still number one for the season, but he was number one this week with 238 guys. So Robert, now it's time to get to your favorite.
Do you ever answer your mail down there? You got that green blinking light that's been there forever.
It's probably some spam from like leagues and stuff that like I signed up to get notifications on that I don't race in.
Okay.
But no, I don't ever log into the website. I look at the new forum stuff from time to time, but I don't look at the old forum any.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just let it blink. Anyway. So guys, let's move into Robert's favorite part here and what everybody tunes in for each week. And that's to see who has all these incidents this week. And I'm going to make a prediction, guys. Since we're at Bristol, I think it's going
I already know I have 20 and only did 4 races. I might be up there.
All right, well, let's look at Division 1 first. The highest incident count for Division 1 was Eric Schaefer in 10 races. So that's only 6.8 incidents a race. That's not that high. Next on the list, we have Ace Gomez. He is in Division 1. I've never raced with him before. I've never seen his name, but he has
Jacob B. Reeves, 1 race, 20 incidents.
Well, let's see, 52 divided by 4. That's
that's a high number, ain't it?
Jacob B. Reeves.
1 race, 20.
Yeah, I hate giving that just means he knew when to quit. You know what I mean? Like I've had those races. Robert, you had
one with you were in there. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
How many do you have? 20 in one race as well?
Yeah, the one I was racing with you. You wouldn't give me the damn room to go inside. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, you had 20 in one race as well.
Yeah.
I have a hard time giving the award to somebody who only ran 1 race. They just thought, man, this is junk. I'm not racing. This is crap. I'm not racing no more. So yeah, we can put him there. Maybe have co-winners this week. Let's see anybody else here.
No, he's the worst one. You got some with
Daniel Roper's got 1 race with 16.
Yeah. I'm looking down the.
Two
I think we're
races
going to
with
call it.
16.
I think our winners this week. We'll have dual winners of the Wall of Shame and be open this week for Division One. And
Oh,
I'm gonna,
I think you're picking favoritism. Just give it to Jacob.
I'm going to go with a split. I'm going to go. My decision this week is going to be a split between Ace Gomez having ran 4 races with an average incidence of 13 incidents per race, and then where he's going to be a co-winner with Jacob Reeves who ran 1 race.
4 incidents per race. He's going to give you a wall of shame.
No, 13. He had 52 and 4 starts.
Okay.
13
I
per race.
looked at the championship point. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, come on, Robert. Use your good eye.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got co-winners this week. Ace Gomez there with 4 starts and 52 incidents for 13 incidents per race. And Jacob B. Reeves had 1 race, which I think was a Monday night strength of field race. I think it was. Has had 20 incidents there in that 1 race. And he's like, that's it. He knew when to fold up shop and go home. So those are our Division 1 winners this week and be open for the Wall of Shame. Ace, never met you before. And if I see you on the track, I'll give you a shout out. And if you want to come on the podcast, just let us know. And nobody's ever taken us up on this before, except one guy was wanting to. I actually reached out to him. It was the guy who wanted us to do A Open every once in a while. Derek, what was his last name, Robert?
Merrick, something.
Heitman or something like that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
He's probably on there. He's probably on there still on A. So.
Yeah, he probably is. Anyway, I've lined it up here 1 week. Whenever we got an opening, he wants to come on and talk about it. Let us know how that happens to him all the time and stuff.
That didn't help his safety rating out, and he did it.
No. If he was in it just for safety, Scotty, it wasn't happening this week.
Well, he could use a little safety rating.
He's in it to win it. He could care less about SR.
That's how I am in road, Trace. In it to win it.
Well,
In it to win it.
I think that's how you are in all races, aren't you?
Let's go now and get out of Division 1, go to all divisions. Robert, you might show up on this list.
I might. I didn't.
We'll go to all divisions, and this is more what I was thinking was going to happen as far as
what's this? 18 with 212 incidents. Whoa,
let's see what that is. I don't know how high that.
That's a little over 10 a race.
Yeah, the guy had 11 with 206. Some of these guys.
That's 11. Hey, Garrett, that's 11.77777 till infinity. So 11.78. Then we'll call it.
That's the kind of guy I want to race around, and I don't say that jokingly because that is great wreck avoidance practice.
Well, that's 4. Somebody would hear.
Yeah, that's true.
Steven Simpson. He had 4 races with 78 incidents. Whoa.
What's that now?
Steven Simpson, 5, number 16.
Yep.
How they didn't get a DQ?
DQ. What's that?
Where you get disqualified. Remember, you got a pit and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He probably did.
Sorry, I'm going down through here looking. Let's see here. Whoa! Now they got the top 11 starts. 206 at number 2 there. 206 incident points and 11 starts. That's 18.7 per race average.
Yeah, that was a DQ.
That's a DQ every race, or not a DQ, but a drive-through penalty every race.
Yeah, 24 is DQ.
Yeah, that's
right. Yeah,
17
is drive-through penalty. I don't know, guys. I haven't found anybody else with a consistently high incidence per race other than Ju-Yoon Kang. I don't know. I've never raced with him either.
Robert Cook.
Where you see me in there? No, I'm not in there. Oh.
I think I'm going to call it for him. That's amazing. I've never yet. This is the first week I've seen anybody that had a decent amount of starts average more than the black flag penalty, the drive-through penalty per race. That's an average. 18.72 average per race on 11 starts. Wow. I'm looking down through here and I'm not seeing. I don't know if I've seen it. Let's see. What was this number? Let's see. Somebody here had 5 starts and 112.
He's from California too.
So. That's 22.4 incidents per race. That would be Kyle Bosch.
Oh, I can believe that. I believe that one. Yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce his last name, Bosch.
I was in a race with that guy.
Well, he's pretty good, huh?
Yeah,
wow.
his incidences
Guys,
Don't
listen,
that
no,
show
no
how
matter
good he
how
is?
bad I was when I first started, I don't know that I ever had a week where I averaged 22 per race. 22.4.
Maybe
You
you think
guys
that's
knock
how you.
on me
That's
all the
probably
time.
how you have to do it. You know, you have to move them out of your way every corner or so. You know.
Yeah, I'm looking down through. I don't think we're gonna find anybody else that's there's nobody else that's gonna beat that. There you go. Wow, here's clearly your wall of shame winner this week for all of B Open.
Now we have to put this disclaimer in there. Just
you go ahead
because
and
you
tell the
have
disclaimer,
because
Robert.
you disclaimer is just because you have all these incidents doesn't mean you're the cause of all of them. You were just involved with it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just 'cause
that's
it's
true.
highly
He could
likely-
have been
just
at
say,
the wrong place
Just
at the
because
wrong
it's
time.
highly likely you're the cause doesn't mean you actually were. It's the
Exactly
probability
right.
is
We all
high.
have our bad weeks.
But if you keep stepping in dog crap,
Yeah, remember to wipe your feet.
Yeah, you may start thinking after a while if you keep stepping in it.
Man, well, Kyle, if you want to come on, and this would, I'm sure this would be a good story. If you want to come on and talk about the 5 races this week and what held up to it, we won't give you too hard of a time, and we'll probably joke about it and laugh about it. But you
He
can tell
probably
everybody
hadn't been
about it
on
if you
very
want.
long. He's only in Division 4, so he hadn't
Yeah.
been here probably very long.
Reach out
Yeah,
to
he's-
us. Reach out to us, and you can come let everybody know what happened to you.
He probably thinks that's how you're supposed to play this game. You know, it's like what do you call it? Grand Theft Auto when you run over people. You know, you get points.
Robert, what do
Demolition
you know
Derby.
about Grand Theft Auto?
It's Demolition Derby on an oval track. That's what Bristol has been this week.
Man, Grand Theft Auto was around in 2000. I played it.
Yeah, I've played it.
Okay. Oh, geez.
Hey,
Well, guys,
Cody chimed in and said that this is the favorite part of the show. He likes the points part.
Oh, well,
Where he
congratulations,
gets-
500 points. He's
oh, well,
500
of
points ahead
course,
everybody.
of course, Cody likes that. He's always number one.
Right.
Well, Ricky Thompson made a comment there. He says, most important question, who made the Lowline setup guide?
Well, we'll get to that here in a few minutes. I was gonna ask Garrett about that when we start back up again. So
Absolutely. So, guys, I think that is the wall of shame. That covers pretty much everything this week for Be Open as far as your championship points leader, which is Cody Trelindi, which that makes him his favorite part of the show because he gets mentioned every week, Trace. I mean,
I know
if you got mentioned every week, wouldn't that be your favorite part of the show?
Well, yeah, but it's not bragging if you're doing it. So
Well, we should have the show last year when Mikey was on top of the list.
That's just speaking the facts, ain't it, Tracy?
That's right. Exactly.
No.
That's what
So
we deal in
anyway.
facts, you know.
Mikey would have been on top of the list of the wall of shame every day, every week.
We don't make the news, we just report it.
Oh, man.
I'm still upset with Bristol. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you're upset with Bruno. I'm thinking, man,
Oh,
we're trying to get him on the show too.
I asked him. He said,
The
no.
Iron Man of Be Open.
Well,
Like Bruno.
Robert, somehow you managed to stay off the incident board, even though you had 20 in one of your races. So, congratulations for staying off the top 25 on the incident board this week.
I know when to fold them.
That's right. After that race, you're like, I'm done, Mikey. That's it. You wouldn't let
that's
me in. You stayed on the low. You stayed on the bottom on the low line, and you wouldn't let me in. So I'm done. I'm not racing no more.
No, well, we were. I don't know how many laps we went side by side and stuff, and then the
Like
guys in the back-
one
Hey.
turn.
Oh, I think.
Yeah,
some
it was
were-
probably
I think-
under caution, you know, the
Yeah,
pace
several-
car was in front of you.
several times. Well, these guys are catching up to us. There's double lines here, you know. Yeah, I'm burning my stuff up, but okay, go ahead, go.
Burning the stuff up under the pace lap.
And so I had
There you
to,
go.
I let off, let 8 of them go in front of me, and the guys are racing behind Mikey, gets in a wreck, and I slid right into it. And okay, Mikey, you're my friend for always.
And when they slid into him, they come down and hit me as I was going by them.
Yeah, you should have stopped. We had the whole field blocked after a while.
Oh,
I wanted
yeah,
to keep
hey.
going.
Before we move on, Robert, talking about wrecks, I saw the most devastating, biggest pile up wreck I've ever seen in my life. And I can't remember if I saved it. I thought about saving the replay. I think it was in that noon race the other day. The whole front stretch, the whole
That's the one we were involved
the whole
with.
front stretch was clogged up.
I know. I was in it.
Yeah,
I
we had
was-
to go around and
I was in it.
everybody. There was like 3 or 4 of us that were ahead of the wreck. and we went clear around the track. I had to slam on our brakes and stop because the whole front stretch was still
I
clogged up.
realize
I
that.
think
Scotty.
every car
Yeah,
on the
that's
track
the wreck I
behind
was
us
in
was
Scotty,
too.
Mikey,
In fact,
that's-
Robert got hit and hit me as I was trying to turn my car around and get started back up.
I had no control after that.
I'm telling you, I think
Yeah,
every track in the car past P3, because I think I was in P3 and there was 2 guys ahead of me or something. I think every other car was in
well,
that wreck.
you're welcome, Mikey. That's the position I wanted to get behind you, but no, that's okay. I'll just go ahead and slide back in the back. And I got involved with that wreck, Mikey. Thank
Listen,
you
you need to take Garrett's advice and practice wreck avoidance, Robert.
Well,
Hey,
That's what
I got
Carb
this to
Cup
say
and
about
Pickup
wreck
Cup is
avoidance.
for.
Yeah, hey,
You
Garrett,
you
before we
can't-
get anything else, Robert needs a little lesson here. Why don't you tell him how to practice and wreck avoidance and not be complaining to me about all this stuff?
Yeah, just go and run Carb Cup and Pickup Cup. Everyone. So you get into these races and everyone wants to be the hero that misses the wreck, but in the ARCA series or CBA, whatever official series, it's like, man, that's a lot of risk for very little reward if you actually pull it off. But in Carb Cup and in Pickup Cup, you can hone your skills in being the hero, and if you screw it up, who cares?
That's right,
Doesn't
Robert.
count
You
for
learn how to
nothing.
pick a
I
line and
agree.
drive
I
through
race a
it.
lot of those because they're fun and they don't cost anything.
Yep, and they're short too, so it's something I
Yeah,
can do in
and short.
20, 30 minutes before I go to
Right.
bed. It's just like, man, I just want to race something today, but I'm not want to commit to like a 150 lap Bristol
Yeah, but
race.
that old Daytona track is bumpy, especially in that truck. Oh man, it'll beat your
It's
arms
great.
to death.
Oh yes, it's wonderful.
So the moral of the story: wreck avoidance.
Yeah, and even in Pickup Cup, sometimes you get to do that under the pace lap before you even get going. Like I did one a couple weeks ago, and
That's true.
the guy in second
true.
place was, weaving back and forth trying to warm up his tire, whatever the heck he was doing, and he just goes and just slams into the pole sitter right in the right rear, turns him straight across the racetrack on the back
did a Mark
stretch.
Martin, huh? Did a Mark Martin, huh?
Yeah, blocked
And
the track, and
everybody was accordioning into
Yeah,
each
tell
other.
me.
yeah.
Garrett, I
Yeah.
think I need to go race some of those just to have more stories for the podcast.
Now tell me, warming your tires up, going back and forth, does that really help you? I heard it doesn't help
No.
at all. I
No.
don't understand why people are doing it. It doesn't work in iRacing. I don't know why.
So it does add some heat to your tires. We extensively tested this, but you don't want at Daytona and Talladega. It's like, okay, why do you need your tires heated up? Here, when you get back around onto the backstretch at full throttle, your tires are going to be hot anyways. Who cares? You're in the draft. And then on top of that, it's just like, okay, at a 1.5-mile track, if you're adding heat to your tires under the pace lap, well, you're just killing the end of your run. All that's doing is eating life out of the tire for the back end of the run if you have a long green flag run. So it's like, just don't.
Stop it.
It's like, why are you doing that? You're either going to hit the wall, hit someone else, or you're just going to put just a little bit more wear than the guy next to you on your tires. And it's just going to put you at a disadvantage. That's my stance on it.
I believe it.
I agree 100% with that.
All right, well let's shift gears a little bit here, guys. And Garrett, let's get into some of the stuff that you're doing now, like what's going on with you, and kind of catch up with you and talk about and promote kind of everything you got going on. So, when Tracy left off, you hooked up with Lowline Racing and you stuck with it, and so now you are the guy who runs their Coca-Cola eNASCAR stuff over there at Lowline. Why don't you tell us about who your drivers are and what you guys got going on?
Now, Garrett, hang on a second. This is kind of a Q&A that's been sitting out there. Let's get this cleared up first. So stintanalyzer.com, friend of the show, sponsor for the Monday night broadcast, stintanalyzer.com, hard charger award. Make sure you tune in 10 o'clock tomorrow or 8 o'clock tomorrow night. He wants to know, most important question, who made the Lowline setup guide? So what is a Lowline setup guide and who made it?
So it's floating out there somewhere. I got the link to it here, I think.
Something you just put out or what?
No, this is something someone else that's not on Lowline made years and years ago. I don't know exactly when it was made. It was before my time at Lowline. I don't even know the guy who made it. And I used to refer to it. I don't really much anymore, just because the
Well,
knowledge on
we've
there.
had a lot of changes too since then, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the basic principles of it, from what I recall, I can't find the link now, but from what I recall, the basic principles on it still, apply. So like if you're brand new to setups, then there's some information on there for you. But it's like, okay, I have that kind of committed to memory. I don't really need to reference it at this point. I think that
Okay.
document was made in like 2014 or something.
Oh, so it's current. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, it's 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, okay. So Ricky goes, it was great back in the day. Everything was great back in the day.
There
So
wasn't
anyhow,
much in the garage to fix.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So anyway, so you get the low line, right? And you're doing your thing at low line. And how did you get to where you're at, where you are in charge of the Coca-Cola stuff? And I'm assuming you recruit your drivers. I know you work with them because I've watched some of the racing, in like the B Opens and stuff where these guys absolutely just love you. And they rightly so, because you do great work, man. There's no doubt about it. But
Thank you.
you have brought, I feel, this team to the forefront at a high level. And I don't remember what Coca-Cola is racing for now, but it used to be like $4,000 a year. Now it's like 6 digits or something crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, whoever wins the championship, if I recall correctly, they get a $100,000 payday, which unfortunately we're not in the fight for that this year. It's running up front and dominating A Open and running up front and winning NIS Open. That's one thing. That's a good that alone is hard against the guys that are consistently racing the high SOF A Opens and high SOF NIS Opens. But that's like going from playing high school football to straight into the NFL on Tuesday night. It's just completely different worlds. We can go out and run Pop 5 and NIS Open and A Open on Monday night, the night before the Coke race, and then Tuesday night we're running, we're struggling to run 20th. It's just because everyone has that. Everyone's right on top of each other. The pace from first place to 30th place, it's like all within a tenth of a second every lap. So any small advantage or disadvantage that you have is huge. So this year and last year with Blade, this year was just really, really a struggle for the majority of the year.
Okay. Why don't you throw out the guys' names that your drivers right now that are current, that you're working with, that are currently in that series?
In the Coke series, it's Blade Witt and Dylan Alt are my drivers, but for the last going on 2 years now, we've been partnered with Elliott Sadler Esports, and they have two drivers over there, Garrett Maines, Liam Brotherton. We're essentially, it's a technical partnership, but we're at this point, we've been doing this together so long now that it's essentially one team. I manage my guys, Seth Ryder manages his guys, but we're kind of we're way too, I wouldn't say way too embedded with each other, but we're just very tightly knit together. Our groups get along really well, and so very, very lucky to be working with them and to have friend. We work with them and compete with them, but we all get along and we're friends. Which
Okay.
is the more important thing.
How does the setup process work? Do you guys share information there? How does that work?
Yeah, it's all one big, happy, dysfunctional family. Everyone shares everything with each other. On the Coke side of things, here recently, we've been working with Ryko. They've been helping us, just because in Coke this whole year we struggled so bad to figure out where we're missing speed with this car, with the new car, because it's just a whole different animal than the Gen 6 was. The Gen 6, we kind of had a pretty good hold on, but the rest of the field did too, because, everyone had 6, 7, 8 years with that car to figure it out. So again, we were all right on top of each other, but this year we've really struggled with the next gen car to really get our arms around it. for the majority of the year, it's been Ty Severa that's been building the setups for the cup stuff, for the Coke stuff. Brendan Kohler and I have helped out as well. But Ty definitely got the hang of the car the fastest, as far as we could take it. Over the summer, I had a lot more time to also kind of get up speed. I ended up building the setup for Nashville and for Pocono, which they weren't bad. We went out and, again, we did really well in A Open and NIS, but then on Tuesday night, we were like a 25th place car just because we were just that little bit off, and we were struggling so bad. And then Ryko in, and they were needing some help as far as test laps, drivers doing test laps go. They were needing a little bit more help on that. So we were Seth with ESE and worked it out with the Ryko guys, the deal that we're working with them for the rest of the year. And it's really been beneficial because, they have the speed. Brad Wright and Kim Byron over at Ryko, they have the proverbial keys to the speed kingdom, and we want it in, right? So it's a mutually beneficial relationship here. So it really showed up at Bristol. Ryan Luza won the race. Dylan, my driver Dylan, I crew chief for him on Tuesday nights. He ended up fifth, sixth, and it wasn't by accident. It was a little bit of luck with strategy, but it was just Dylan is a monster driver. That guy is. He could be 11 laps short with 8 laps to go, and he'd finish the race with 3 laps left on fuel, and he set the fastest lap of the race in that 8 laps. The dude is just he is an incredible driver. I've never seen someone be able to get everything and then some out of a car like he can.
So now your test sessions, are you testing setups? Are you testing driver development? I mean, how does that go about? Like we were talking with Overclock, where we would spend Saturday nights in a 4-hour room, and then Chris would get done and throw up another 4-hour room, and all we did was driver development. Where are you guys at? I mean, percentage wise, are you 50% setup, 50% driving? Are you 80% setup and 20% driving? How does that work?
It's about like 95% setup and then 5%, driver development, if you want to call it that, or just kind of screwing around, having fun. But at that level in sim racing, at the Coke level, there's really not a ton. There's not really a ton of driver development left to do. Like, you, me, and Daniel, how we needed back in the overclock days. We didn't know what they were doing. We needed that track time, like with Corey and Chris, because they knew how to drive. But now with doing this in the Coke series, Garrett Maines knows how to drive. Blade knows how to drive. Dylan Alt knows how to drive. Liam Brotherton, even though, he calls himself a certified harpoon, he knows how to drive. So it's mainly just centered around building setup and getting the car comfortable for each of them. So that at least when we get to Tuesday, we have a fighting chance of at least fighting for a decent finish.
Okay. Yeah. When I talk about driver development, I'm not talking entry level with these guys. I'm just saying somebody is going to be the fast guy, on the set. And usually it's dependent more on driving. So I didn't know if somebody had a particular line, style, whatever, where they share it and say, hey, look, you might want to try this, or you can't do that on this track or whatever, that kind of, that kind of driver development, not your entry's too fast and you're not using brakes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the drivers, they definitely share telemetry with each other. Like if someone's doing especially, like for the most part, they're all kind of like literally within the same ballpark. Like we'll be doing 30 lap runs to test the setup, and they'll all be just like within a few tenths of each other over a 30 lap run. But then so for the most part, they're all really kind of off of each other, but they definitely share notes back and forth between each other. There are weeks when, like at Pocono, I really enjoy Pocono. I'm good at Pocono. That's a week this year that I was able to kind of tell them, like, no, I was really proud to be able to tell them, hey, you're driving the corner a little bit wrong.
Right. And that's kind of what I was getting at. So now here's something that I'm curious about. I know what it was like when we were at Overclock. Now you get into a Coke week, right? Take us through that as a crew chief. What do you do to prepare that night? You know, when you get in that environment and it's showtime. I know there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that nobody ever talks about, nobody ever sees, but your experience from the old to the new, what is it? Because you obviously have taken things that you have learned and instilled that in this team. You wouldn't be a successful team if you hadn't, right? So, and I'm not asking you to share everything. I'm just asking you the procedure. Like, when do you guys meet? Is there a pre-race meeting? Obviously you talk strategy, or I mean, how does the whole flow go to the race from beginning to end? And I'm not talking, you don't have to tell me every step, but what generally happens now versus what used to happen then? Isn't it a little more strict? Because I
So
know
my
Tyler
pro
Hudson has something to do with that too. I think Tyler isn't
Shut
Tyler
up.
your race director?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, T-Head's race director. On that side of things, I can't really speak to because I've really had any problem with Tyler. As far as I know, he's never had any problem with me. Like, there's never been anything that he's done that I've kind of had an issue with, or as far as anything I've ever done, like in a Coke race as a crew chief, that he's ever had an issue with. Um, so on that side of things, I can't really speak to it. That's something, if we can convince Dylan Alt to come on here one day, maybe he has a story or something. He has a little bit different experience with Tyler, just because since he's the driver, he's in contact with Tyler. I'm not.
Okay.
But as far as like race day, like leading up to race day and race day, for me, it starts on like Saturday night, because usually by the time we get to the Saturday or Sunday night before the Coke race, the setup's done. We're done trying. We've got a setup out of the probably 40, 50, 60, 100 variations of the setup that we have. We limited it down to, like, okay, these are the 2 or 3 best. Okay, we got 4 drivers. These are the 2 or 3 best that we've determined lap time wise, speed wise, comfort wise. Drivers go out and determine which setup they're going to end up running on Tuesday. So for me, it kind of starts over the weekend before the race. So 3 or 4 days before, that's about the time, if I haven't already been involved building the setup, which this year I've been kind of in the back seat this year, just because I've had a lot of stuff going on outside of iRacing. But if I haven't already been involved with building the setup and getting it to that kind of final form of it, then I'm grabbing whatever setup Dylan says he's probably going to run on Tuesday night, and I'm doing 30 lap runs on it, right? Because if I can go out and do runs on this setup, I'm not really going to get close to the total run time that Dylan can. He's just, I'm not that level, but I can get close. And whenever I'm doing the runs and the setup's doing this, that, or the other, and Dylan's feedback that he's given me, he's saying, oh yeah, it starts to get tight, loose, whatever. The car starts doing this as we get closer to lap 30. And I'm going out and doing 30 lap runs and feeling that as well. He's telling me the car is doing XYZ during the race. I know what he's talking about. So it gives me a better idea of what adjustments that I can do to maybe try to fix it during the race. Just to be able to make smarter setup changes, right? And over the weekend as well, I'm thinking about, as I'm doing these runs and getting data, recording telemetry at it, and Motec, looking at how much fuel we're using, what's the lap time fall off, yada, yada, yada. Okay, now I'm thinking about strategy. And strategy is always a moving target. You can't ever go into a race, which, I mean, you guys do be open enough. You've done green flag pit stops. You can't really ever go into a race think I'm pitting on lap 55 regardless of what's going on. That the lap you have to pit on is always changing based on who you're racing, how far someone is ahead of you or behind you. So that number's always changing. But it's good to have an idea of, okay, I want to pit between this lap and this lap because of these reasons. Maybe the fall off on, the tire fall off, lap time fall off is big enough that, okay, I can undercut these guys, have that huge advantage for maybe 2 or 3 laps, pull a gap, and then, over the run, that gap is only going to incrementally change, and at some point it's going to plateau off. Like at Darlington a couple weeks ago, whenever I had time to do a couple B Open races, that's kind of what happened. 35, 40 laps into run, lap times kind of plateaued. So it's like, okay, if I can manage to undercut some guys by 2 or 3 laps, the lap time fall off was what, 2.5 seconds or something? I can't remember. But that's a cheap way to kind of pull a 5-second gap one way or the other. Either close up someone's bumper or pull out in front of them. And it's kind of the same with the Coke race. I'm already thinking about strategies Saturday night, Sunday morning of, okay, when do I want to pit Dylan? Right, we're going to aim for kind of this area for these reasons. I'll go and talk to the other crew chiefs on the team, be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. We'll kind of bounce ID around, and then we get to race day. The drivers on race day, I put up race rooms for them to go and do qualifying laps or race laps, whatever they feel like they need to do. Usually it's qualifying. So we have qualifying rooms up the majority of the afternoon, leading all the way up to race time for them to go and just, knock the rust off, get it up. So they'll do that for 2 or 3 hours before the race. And then usually about an hour before the race, I'll get all crew guys in one place, so it's me, and it ends up to me. Total, it's about 8, 9, 10 guys that are involved on race day, kind of the behind the scenes on the virtual pit box kind of thing.
Now, is this just for
And we'll
Dylan
start
or is this
talking
for
about-
all of them? Is
all
it
of
just for
them.
Dylan?
This is for all of them, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for all 4 drivers. We'll end up anywhere from 8 to 12 guys will be there on any given night. Gonna kind of veer off here. Feel free to get on track at any point here. I know I ramble a lot. So one thing I took overclock is, kind of how race day was structured or Corey. You had Key doing crew chief stuff, playing virtual crew chief. You had Drew on spotter, and then I kind of, weaseled my way into doing whatever the heck I want to call it I was doing, talking to Drew and feeding
Well,
him
you were
information.
spotting it more or less is what I thought.
Yeah, I wasn't spotting like Drew was, but I was just like looking around the track and telling Drew like what lines drivers were doing, when guys were pitting, when there were wrecks, crap like that is what I was
Right.
doing. But how, as time has gone on at Lowline, how I've structured race day for these guys, or I don't rule with an iron fist. If these guys want to do something different out of the box, whatever makes driver comfortable is ultimately what's going to happen. But like the basic structure that I try to kind of push on these guys, especially going through road to pro, is, okay, you have your crew chief who's going to, do your setup adjustments and kind of just plays cheerleader for you. You have your spotter who, is going to spot for you. And then kind of like a IndyCar term here, like a strategist that works with the crew chief. So the crew chief isn't the only one with his hand over the button to make all the final calls. Not everything lays on his shoulders. The crew chief has someone to fall back onto and talk about strategy with, and setup adjustments for. So we aim for a 4-man team on race day as far as during the actual race is concerned. Driver and then 3 crew guys. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. It just kind of depends on who's available and who's willing to do what. So that's kind of one thing I took from Block is kind of that structure that Chris had. And when you and I were at Overclock, I was just kind of like, even at the time, I was thinking like, oh, if we could do this a little bit differently, that a little bit differently, anything that we can do to kind of streamline everything, that's just going to make the whole setup, building, and race day process smoother, and that gives us just a little bit better chance, right? So as time's gone on, we started off with one idea over at Lowline, and then it's just kind of morphed as it's gone on. As we've needed to make changes, realized, oh, this doesn't. Maybe this would work a little bit better. So race day, we ended up having. We started doing this last year. Is getting all the drivers in their own separate room. Drivers just need to focus on driving. They don't need to worry about strat. Ultimately, we try to make it where the drivers don't need to worry about strategy and help plan strategy unless they just really want to, unless they just think they have a really good idea and want to interject that onto, to the group. But race day meeting is strictly just the box, like pit box guys. So with Coke this year, it's anywhere from 8 to 12 guys on a given Tuesday between all 4 of our drivers. And like I said, we talk about strategy. Okay, maybe we should, if it goes green, we should pit this lap. Another big thing is, what is the minimum threshold of laps before we come in and take tires, right? So like if there's a 5-lap run and then there's a caution right at the beginning of the race, it's like, do you come in and take tires, or do you stay out and see if you can't pick up some traction from guys pitting? And that just kind of varies track to track. Like some tracks, it's just like, oh yeah, there's, the tire fall off doesn't matter as much for this track. So like 5-lap, I'm not going to come in and change 5-lap old tire. But somewhere like Darlington, that's a huge advantage. You're going to consider coming in and taking tires, especially if you're running like 25th.
Now,
right?
do you have
'Cause it's like
limited
at that
sets of
point, it's-
tires too? Are your tires
Yes.
limited? Okay.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. All right. So that's pretty much the race day stuff. Now,
Yeah.
when we had COVID a couple years ago, right? And the NASCAR guys were not driving. You said you're part of ESE, which is Elliott Sadler. Now, did you have anything to do with any of those guys during when they were putting on their broadcast, the real race guys? Did you do anything with them guys setup wise or helping them or anything?
No, I wasn't involved in any of that. What I understand, it was mainly like the Coke drivers were asked to kind of get with the real life guys during that and kind of, coach them through how to, not just go off into the corner and spin out and hit the wall every time.
Right.
So
if I
that was
remember
definitely
right,
some driver development.
okay. Well, if I remember right, they were on fixed setups. If I remember right, they were all on the same setups. But and the reason I asked you this is I had the privilege at the time a couple years ago, back when COVID first came around, is I got to work with Kyle Bush's chassis engineer, his car engineer at the time, and we sat down and we were working with a buddy of his that we both know. He was doing road to pro in the trucks at the time. So we were trying to get him through the pro time. And I believe we were in the same split as Dallas at the time. So that's why I asked. And so I got to work with him, and he shared his Motec workbook, and we would sit down and do the truck setups and that kind of stuff for the road to pro. But I do remember when they got into the COVID part of it, that he was also working with Kyle at the time on the sim stuff. So that's why I was curious. I didn't know where you guys is low line with all your team drivers and stuff, how all that worked out to try to help accelerate that program.
Yeah, we didn't do, like, none of the low line guys did. I think Garrett Maines did with a cup driver, like did like more like driver coaching, because it was all set up, so everyone was on the same thing. It was mainly just, like I said, it was mainly just driver development, trying to get the guys who really hadn't ever raced before a little bit more comfortable sim racing and how to not just spin out and cause a wreck every corner, try to put on a good broadcast.
Yeah. Plus it was on the old car too. It wasn't on the new gen, the Gen X or next gen, whatever you call it. So it was on that old car. And I know there was some complaints about the tires. They were real vocal about that. I thought that was kind of funny too. So.
Yeah. They said there was like no slip in the tires or something. Like if you got it, like the yaw that they could put it out to in real life was not achievable on the sim. You just spin out or something. I can't remember what they were saying now.
Right. All right. So you're doing low line, and now we talked earlier in the broadcast you're going to school, man. What are you going to school for? You said
Yeah.
mechanical engineering. What's that all about?
Yeah.
Why are you back in school and why are you learning mechanical engineering?
Because like everyone, I think the phrase you used a couple weeks ago is everyone and their brother. Like everyone and their brother, I want to eventually try to be out there in Charlotte and take it from, just sitting here at my desk doing iRacing and doing sim racing and try to do it in real life. Seems like that'd be a pretty fun thing to do.
Yeah, and there are some guys down there that do both. They're actually sim racing
Yep.
and doing the real racing stuff. And I know that's a great area down there, and I hope it works out for you. I'd like to see you continue, continue on because, like I said, you do a great job. There's no reason why you couldn't offer anybody, your services and do a great job for some real life team. So I'm excited about that too. So that's good to hear. I'm glad to see you. Since overclock, you haven't like stood still. You're moving on and you're doing great things, and that's what we're happy for too. And on top of that, is there anybody you want to thank, man? I mean, who else is there that's behind the scenes that helped you? Or I think you got a Twitch channel. You might want to throw that out there. People can watch on Twitch and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so like at Lowline, Paul Bliss, he's another one of the guys that kind of runs the show around here. He does like he wrangles like the Be Open guys in, David and Chris Robertson, whoever else runs Be Open with Week, Dakota Earman, those guys. But then Eric Smith, he's been at Lowline for a long time. He won a Coke race, or it was still peak at the time in 2019 there at Auto Club. He's a great friend, and he's a super smart guy, and he works kind of doing the same thing I'm hoping to do. He just was wise enough to do it when he was, younger. So he works at RCR now. He's one of the engineers at RCR. He gets to sit in the war room on Cup race day. So I'm hoping to be able to join him one day. But then Blade Witt, Seth Ryder, Michael Jeans, Elliott Sadler, all those guys are, great friends, tremendous people, and I couldn't think of anyone I'd rather go to war with on Coke Series 9 than those guys.
I'll tell you what, the next time you talk to Elliot, see if he wants to do the show for me, because that's one guy I wanted to meet when I was in Charlotte. And I went to, this is back, he was in Bush. He was with Diamond Ridge. I think it was Diamond Ridge Motorsports at the time. And I think he drove the WCW car, and I think it was at Charlotte. So that'll take him back a while. But anyways, we stopped at that shop to meet him, and he had just left the shop. So I'd love to get that guy on the show. If you got any way of pulling strings there, I'd like to have him on.
Yeah, that's another guy that never stands still. Like, I think I'm busy, and then Seth will be like, "Oh yeah, Elliot went and did 500 things today, so he might get on tonight." It's like, wow, I'd be asleep for the next 2 days if I was as busy as that guy.
Well, man, it's been great having you on the show, and I really appreciate you coming over. So, but Mike, why don't you take over, bud, and we'll get this thing wrapped up.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate Garrett coming on, man. It's been a good story. A lot of Tracy, over like the time we've been doing the podcast and all the YouTube stuff and the how-to videos and everything we put on YouTube. We've had a lot of questions guys have asked about and always wondered like what it would take to be, do the road to pro, make it through, be on a Coke team, and make it to that level. And so this is the first week that we've really been able to we've had Garrett on now to actually talk about it. Like, this is kind of the behind the scenes stuff. This is what we do at that level. And I think that's what a lot of people have been interested in that. And this has been great to kind of see the inside baseball stuff, if you will, at that level. So Garrett, we appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us about that this week.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I know I'm probably the worst person to talk to about this kind of stuff because I get sidetracked and just ramble, as you've seen over the last 2 hours. But yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been a blast. I'd like to do it again sometime if you'll have me back.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We always have an open invite for our guests. You're a friend of the channel now. And I'm glad to
Yeah.
have you back too. You're a lot of
And
fun.
Garrett, maybe after the season's over, you can come and kind of give us a wrap up of your guys' season this year in the Coke series and kind of what happened whenever that wraps up this year.
Yeah, definitely.
So, guys, that's pretty much it for the broadcast tonight. Robert Cook, you still hanging in there? Number one team driver, still hanging in there with us?
Yeah, I still here.
Wow. I think the gerbil was going to go race the B Open at
Yeah,
midnight.
Robert.
I'm looking at the clock, Gerbs. You got 6 minutes to get into it.
Gerbil, you gonna run that race? I might run that race.
Gerbs is away, I think. He
I
might be
think he
practicing.
left.
Well, he's probably getting everything ready to go. So if you guys, anybody out there wants to come race the Midnight B Open with some Area 50, some of our teammates here at Area 51, Gerbs, David Gervais, the Gerbil, says he's going to get into it, and Scotty Stevens might get into it as well. That's the midnight Eastern time, the 11 o'clock Central. Don't know what the rest of time zones are. I don't care to do the math on that, but we call it the midnight race. Here in
10, I
Midnight.
think, is West Coast. So
Yeah. So
Yeah,
anyway, if
I'm
y'all wanna
here.
go
I was
race the-
practicing. I'm sorry.
Huh?
I said I'm here. I was practicing.
10 o'clock is mountain.
He's practicing. He's practicing because the Gerbs is going to go get in that race. So yeah, 10 o'clock Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Pacific Time, whatever. If you guys want to get in the next B Open, it's about to kick off here in about 5 minutes.
don't get shut out.
Yeah,
How many
don't
people-
get shut out. The Gerbil and Scotty Stevens might be in there. You might see a couple Area 51 cars. In fact, I might even jump in it. We'll see here in a couple minutes. So if that's the case, let's wrap this broadcast up tonight, this podcast. Guys, if you haven't done so yet, you like our content here at Area 51, we ask you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate every subscription that we get. Our goal here in the first year is become a YouTube partner, trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. So appreciate everything you guys do to help the channel grow. Bell icon gets you notified anytime that we go live or put up new content here on the channel. And smack that thumbs up button if you like the videos. That gets the YouTube algorithms a moving and gets our content in front of more eyes, and we appreciate that. And guys, for you all, for each and every one of you, we have everything down in the description. We got a promo code to Maconi Setup Shop, which gets you 10% off. We got an affiliate link to Major's Garage. We got 3 great places you can get some free setups to check out down there. And if you like your iRacing paint job and you want to get a custom die cast made of it, we have a link down there you guys can check out to get yourselves a custom die cast made of your model of your iRacing car. So guys, that's it for myself and everybody here at Area 51, the Admiral Tracy Rumschlag, myself, Mike Howerton, Mr. Excitement. We got the number one team driver, Robert Cook, the Gerbil, David Gervais, and Scooter Scotty Stevens, our special guest this week, Garrett Mashburn. For all of us here at Area 51, thank you for being with us. And as always, we will see you in
In the next
The next one.
Yeah, in like 2 minutes. We'll see you guys later.